Hey, what's up? Today we're going to talk about how to start to create your own funky jam and improvise by playing some components together to create some stuff. So when I was growing up, we didn't have loopers. A looper wasn't even a thing. If you wanted to record your guitar, you'd have to use a cassette recorder and record yourself, and like 6 minutes later rewind it and play it. So I learned early on to accompany myself by kind of jamming and comping when I was doing it. So the ingredients for this jam are pretty simple. What we're going to do is we're going to utilize either a ninth chord like this. This is an E9 or a 7 sharp 9, which is like called the Hendrix chord. It's known as the Hendrix chord as well. That's going to be like a ninth chord like this, but with also this G note added at the top. So it's this, this, and this. A7, D6, G7, and B8. What we're going to do is we're going to learn how to funk with this chord or this chord. This sound is a little different. This one has a bit more of abrasion to it than this one does. So what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to start to be able to go. So I've got my delay set to a tempo. So I can make it whatever tempo I want it to be. Make sure you set your delay to a quarter note with the tempo that you're playing. So if I go chorda chicka, chorda chicka, chorda chicka, it's a good start. There's a video on the channel right here on how to do this with some more elaboration about how to mix the beats of where that funkiness is. You could do the upbeat, you can go, or chorda chicka, or chicka chick chord. That's a good one too. So watch that video over there. So what next ingredient we're going to do, so we're going to play the pentatonic scale that we all know and love, this little box right here. So it's basically like 5/7, 5/7, 5/7. And we're going to play that in conjunction with this. So I can go chorda chicka doo doo. Put that together, we can go. So I'm kind of going chorda chicka tack to get. I'm funking if that's a term, with this scale right here while I'm playing the chord. So I can go. So here, let's talk about the three different techniques for playing these funky rhythms. There's the choke, the chick, and the chang. The choke is when you dampen the other strings you're not playing. So if I go like this, I'm choking my other strings. You have to kind of fold your fingers over the strings to keep them quiet, and I can choke the other strings. Everything else is dampened. The second technique is called a chicka, which is obviously what I'm doing right here. This is kind of a really fun thing to do. You could just do an isolated chicka jam, right? If I go chicka, I can do either eighth notes where I'm going like low strings to high strings, or I can go like tuku chaka, which I'm kind of going low, low, high, high, and I can create a jam that way. I can go like, right? So if I go, I'm doing a chicka jam. As you move your hand further to the right, it's more trebly, more bassy here. So you can go. So that's your chicka jam. Something else I'm doing too, which I discovered, which I think is pretty fun. If you do like a scratch thing, you can do chickas while you do the scratch thing together like this. That's kind of a fun sound too. The more you do this, the more you'll have your sort of scat singing thing down where you can sing the rhythms you're playing, right? So we're going like either 16th notes, chicka, 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 or 8th notes, kind of 16th notes is probably where we're at. I'm playing either a 9th chord or 7 sharp 9 as our primary chord to play while we're doing this thing. And what we want to do is kind of do the chicka jam with this chord and combine it together. So there's 3 techniques again. We have the choke, the chick, and the chang. The choke is when you cover all the strings that you're not playing, except for the strings that you're not playing are covered, and the ones you want to play sound out, right? So if I play this note and this note, if I choke the other strings, I'm going to dampen everything else. Like the 6 was 9. So here I want like do 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 do, but I'm going to do the chicka while I'm doing that. Do it slowly. Do 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 do. So that technique, this rhythm is kind of like this is Robinson, like do 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 do. So the choke, the chick, and the chang. The choke is that. It's the same technique you use for octaves. If you dampen the other strings that you're not playing, right? So if I'm playing an octave, I'm playing these 2 notes, but I'm folding over the rest of the strings. And there's lots of ways to dampen the strings, but when you're playing funky stuff and your right hand's free, you know, flopping around free, you have to use your left hand for the primary dampening because your right hand's busy. There are a lot of times where I'll come over here and an assist, I guess you could call it. If I'm playing like September or something, I'm going to still go, still dampening here. Oh, here it is. So I'm still dampening a little bit with the right hand, which is again is that like scratch thing. So if you do the chicken and the scratch together, throw a chord in, now I've got the choke happening, the chick happening. The chang is the resulting sound from the chord after you chick. If I go chick chang, chick chang. So I can go, so that's kind of lame by itself. But if I go, now I'm going to take my 9th chord. I'm going to add these riffs into it. I'm going to go do 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 do. Okay, so now I have choke, chick, and chang happening to create the jam. Oh, by the way, the sound I'm using, it's the Fractal Audio FM9. I have a Fender Bassman sound with a Bassman 410 cabinet, which is kind of a go-to sound for bass players, and another 412 cabinet simulated with this in a studio compressor and just a regular delay, just set to the quarter note, nothing fancy here. So now I want to create a jam. I want to jam. I want to create something that sounds funky, right? I'm playing my 9th chord, so it has up higher. F9, I could add the 13th like this. I can go like, so I can go, so I'm going chick, chord a chick, chord a chick, chord a chick, chord a chick, chord chick. Now throw an octave in. I'm going to follow the same box here, this little box here. I'm going to go like this, 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 this. Oh, I have this. I can go like. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention for the sound of the amp, if you want to play funky, I've turned my I've turned the mid range off on the amp, so I kind of scoop the mids. It's called scooping the mids, and that gives you more of a funky sound. If I play like a fake bass sound. I like doing that a lot. It's a very funky sound. It's just turn your mids down on the Fender Bassman amp. And I'm on the right now I'm on these two pickups, like the standard fourth position of a Strat. It sounds a little different with a fifth position versus, I don't know, it's kind of apples and oranges. I don't know which one's better. So our ingredients for our jam, we're playing now octaves. And I like to use my fourth finger instead of the third finger, so when I switch string groupings, I don't have to switch fingers. I like that a lot better. So now I'm going to play this octave and this octave. Maybe this one too. And go like this. And then this chord here, the 7 sharp 9, that's the Hendrix chords, A7, D6, G7, and B8. Kind of a very iconic sound, right? So if I play this riff here, going right down the pentatonic scale, throwing the blue note in here, I can go. That octave slide, right? So how many songs do this? Well, we have like Play the Funky Music, Superstition, same riff, right? So we can totally jam on this all day long. So I've got the scale going, got the octaves going. Right? I've got the 7 sharp 9 chord or this 9th chord going. Go a half step above for F9, back to this and then to D9. So you could do like you know what I mean, Jeff Beck, right? When it goes like. If I can do that up here, I can go. Can I get that going? Now, the next chord you might want to play is this A9 chord. This is a good one too for funky. 9th chords are good for funk. So this is D7, G6, B8, and high E7. It's the same chord as this, but down here, right? So I can go. Now that's my 4 chord for the funk. So I go. Now, the next 9th chord you want to add is this one. So if you want to make it kind of a blues, this one looks like this. This is another 9th chord form, right? So what I'm doing here, let's say for A9, it's A4, D5, G4, and B5. It's like, you know, like your Stormy Monday type chord, right? It's a 9th chord. It's also a lot of other things too. It's a minor 7 flat 5, or it's a half diminished diminished 7th. I was talking to Lewis about this earlier today. Anyways, so now if I play this 9th chord at E9, I can go to A9, and back to E9. That's called a vamp if you go back and forth between two chords. So I can go. Now let's say I decide to take this scale. I've been playing this blues scale, and I wanted to make it Mixolydian instead, make it a 7th chord. I could do this. So I can go. So now I can funk like that. I can pick these, move these tritones around. Check this out. Just play 5 chord. Now you should learn as many like chord forms as you can. It's a cool sounding 9th chord. Any form you can learn, right? So I'm going to play this together. I'm going to go like. Right? So let's go back to our basic ingredients again. We're talking about how to play funky guitar jams. Like I was saying, when I was a kid, we didn't have loopers, so we had to learn how to be our own looper. So what I'm doing is I'm basically kind of creating a jam and accompanying myself and entertaining myself. So the ingredients were either a 9th chord or the 7 sharp 9, like this. I'm playing it a pentatonic scale. I'm throwing in this blue note right there or up here. You play with your hands, with the pick or your fingers too. You can go. It's kind of chicken picking, right? Kind of a cool sound. You can do that with your fingers or just your hands alone. Whatever you want to do to get the funk sound of your right hand. And then the exercise is to practice going chord chicka, or like chick chord chicka, or chicka chorda, or chord chicka chick chord. Here I had that 13th at the top, right? So now I'm going to play this box, and I'm going to throw some funky chords in. Choke chicken chang, I'm choking the strings. There's that 9th chord up here if I want to play that. Here I'm just playing pentatonic scale. I'm funking. Now I'll move these tritones around. And right, like that's a cool sound. It sounds like Rock and Roll Hoochie, right? And he goes like. It might even sound better without a pick, but you can't strum as well without a pick. Sometimes I use my fingertip and I'll do, because you can really yank up those strings. As far as your right hand goes, your right hand has to be super loose. You just want your hand to be loose, like you're shaking water off your hand, like it's literally like just a floppy dead thing. The idea is it's kind of like the wax on, wax off, or paint the fence with every technique with your right hand, but the idea is that as your arm's going up, your hand's going down. As your hand's going down, your arm's going up. So it's like a ride cymbal. If you look at a ride cymbal and a drummer plays a ride cymbal, or if you're conducting is the same thing. There's a bounce to it, right? So while I'm doing this rhythm, my hand's literally just flopping. I'm letting gravity flop my hand. And when you do that, that's how you get the right attack, so it sounds like loose. It's not crisp. If you're too tight, then you get bound in the strings and you're stuck, right? So the idea is to be able to just kind of gloss over the strings. So I'm doing like a Venn diagram where I'm doing the bottom strings and the top strings are separate in these big circles. So I go, but a lot of times if you're doing 16th notes, you want to go tuka chaka. So tuka chaka, sort of like, it's like So I was talking earlier about doing the funky chicka jam. want to practice being able to do a chicka jam, you should be able to scat sing this stuff, right? So you should be able to sing what you're playing. So I call it musical shockers, but everything's connected. So if I go, I was also talking about this kind of thing I've been doing lately where I do a scratch and a chicka together. Throw a chord in, now you get. Ninth chords again. Such a cool sound to do this. So you should be able to sing what you play. If I go, it's all connected, right? Now once you get that going, we can throw in this 4 chord, the A9 or the B9 too for that matter, make it into like a blues. Move your tritones around while you're doing the funk stuff. And you can make it either pentatonic, like this with a blue note, or you can make it Mixolydian. If you go, so I would start with the 9th chord, try the 7 sharp 9. These are different animals. You can also throw a 13th chord in for that matter too. That's an A13. So that kind of sounds good too. So if I'm going to go like, I like that sound a lot too. I can't stress enough learning songs, right? So I'm playing in all these wedding bands, and every wedding song that comes your way, you learn a new thing. And I love playing the dance music, like Dancing Queen. I mean, I think it's really, really fun. Celebration or, any of the songs I was doing September earlier. Every one of the songs is like a nugget of understanding of how this works. But rhythm and guitar playing is like so overlooked. And for me, it's probably more fun than playing lead guitar. There's definitely a lot less pressure. I like to lock in with a really good drummer. If you're watching, Jay plays with me all the time. He's a great drummer. I like to lock in with a really good drummer and just kind of play off each other. And Richie's great too, if you're ever watched this video, Richie. It's a really cool thing to do this. So the idea is to create your own jam without having to have a looper. I love using a looper. I've got loopers everywhere. But if you can be your own looper, you don't have to have a looper. And then if you find yourself in a situation where you're playing as a true trio, just bass, drums, and guitar, you're not going to be hung out to dry. Even if you're playing like jazz standards or something, eventually playing as a trio requires you to accompany yourself, right? It's called comping. Like that kind of thing. But if you're playing by yourself, you have to be able to solo and do that together and still be able to pull it off real-time live. So this funky thing, let's go over these ingredients again. So I'm doing the chook, the chick, and the chang, or the 3 left-hand techniques for dampening. The chick is obviously this. The chang is when you hit a chord after the chick. And the choke is when you dampen the strings you're not playing. So if I strum through that, you have to get good at doing that, and you can do it with octaves as well, like the Jimi Hendrix style. So you throw this in, your octaves, your 9th chord and or sharp 9, throw a 13th at the top. You make it altered like this, kind of Steely Dan sounding, right? And then kisses like that. And Prince was a badass dude, wasn't he? That guy could play really well at guitar, actually, quite surprising. I didn't know that when I was a kid. So you throw that in, and you throw on your pentatonic scale with a blue note, or make it Mixolydian, and then you play the chords with it, and you practice going chord, a chick, a chord, a chick, a chord, a chick, a chord. And a lot of times you'll see me go ticka-ticka. That's a triplet-ta. Right, so that's like a 30-second note triplet. Sounds really cool if you play it fast. So a lot of times it's sort of just for effect, right? So you got your chicka going. Once you get good at that and you kind of get comfortable, practice it all over the guitar, move your hand around up here, you know. Throw in your chords and your scale, and then you have a jam. Now if you want to go to the 4 chord, that was this A9 chord. Now, a lot of times I'm playing the top 4 strings. The technique changes with my right hand. I'm not doing a full sweep anymore, like a full strum. I'm kind of actually just doing kind of this. Because you really want to kind of pop these notes out. Guitar is a percussion instrument, so you really be aggressive when you play it in a way, but not so aggressive it sounds bad. It's like a fine line between being aggressive and not pulling the strings off your guitar. It's funny, I actually popped a string on this. This has a lighter high E string that I'm used to. The other strings don't match with it, but I'm too lazy to change them. But if I go, I'm going flick-tick, flick-tick, flick-tick. And you can do it with your hands too. I like to do this a lot too with fingers, like just kind of popping the strings aggressively, kind of like almost like Chad Atkins style, but with funk. And if you do that, what you do is you dampen your left hand, but you do that intermittently. See, I let go, stop. So it's called a dead note or a percussive dead note. Like the chicken picking technique is to go like chick, tick, tick. So you can do that with your chord. Works at playing funk too. So, if you listen to Muscle Car on Bold Horizon, that's what I'm doing on that part. So it's on the record actually. That exact riff is. It's something that, again, I organically just was jamming, and the whole entire tune was written that way. A lot of times, when you write a song, you just jam on a concept long enough in a certain environment, it becomes an actual piece of music eventually. All right, so the thing to practice is to learn your 9th chord or your 7 sharp 9 like this. Learn how to keep a beat going with a chicka chicka jam. Watch that video on the channel about funky rhythms, I think it's called, where I kind of go through the exercises how to do this. Throw in your kind of a little Jimi Hendrix or Jimmy Page for that matter blues box here, and learn to choke the chick and the chang. Try to learn how to displace those two, like. My left hand, the fingers are folded over the strings to keep it quiet. Move your tritones around. And play with that, and throw in an A9 here or here. You can play like a C9 to a B9. So, you can do it with minor as well, or dominant, even major I suppose, but the idea today is to do this 9th chord. All right, so I hope you have a lot of fun doing this. It's entertaining, and it's something you could do for years, just to kind of build your arsenal. When you jam on a concept over the course of a number of years, your ideas just flourish and more things come out. It's how you build your style. You build your own voice on the guitar by an awful lot of experimenting and lots of hard work, but it's fun, but you have to play until you're exhausted. I think Carlos Santana said that you have to play for 4 hours before something that's original and that's actually you comes out, which is pretty daunting if you think about it. But the longer you do these concepts that you're jamming on, the more they become your own. And then you'll recognize them in other music. You'll listen to somebody else play and say, hey, I know what that is because I do that myself, or that's a cool variation of that thing. And then you learn songs that have these elements in it also, and it connects to that as well, and you start to see how other people are doing it. And then when you go to learn songs, it's easier to learn because you already do the same thing, and it looks like it's something like familiar territory. So this is something that I've been jamming on for a very long time, and hopefully this was helpful to start to learn how to play some kind of like, I don't know, some E-funky stuff, but to learn how to create your own jams while you're doing it. All right, I'll be back on again sometime this week for sure for live. Talk to you then.